Hi everybody and welcome back. My name is Darren and welcome to another multimeter review. Today we're looking at the ADM04 mini multimeter, and they call it a mini multimeter. What does mini mean? Well, it's smaller than your average size digital multimeter. Just to give you an idea how small it is, if we compare it with the already small AN8008, which I had removed the speaker to in a previous video, it's quite characteristically it's quite similar, perhaps maybe a ½ inch smaller. And if you look at the depth, they're pretty close. I'd say they're neck and neck. Now the difference with the ADM04 is you have a really nice plastic holster, whereas on the Anning it's just that cheap plastic. So what do you get when you purchase an ADM04? Well, you get the multimeter, a nice black box, and a tiny little user's manual. Manual really doesn't say a whole heck of a lot. Gives you the basics, and it's kind of cheesy, kind of lousy. So it's really useless. In terms of feature set, well, the ADM04 does microamps, milliamps, voltage AC/DC, and it has a diode continuity and ohms checking. For the voltage safety max, it's listed as 600 volt Cat 3. Now, I haven't actually looked inside of it yet. We'll take a peek before this review is over. But yeah, I don't know if I would trust the leads. And speaking of leads, it comes with these two guys, and as you can see, it's already attached to the multimeter. So it's one of these devices that's basically designed to perhaps throw in your trailer, boat, car, or on your bench, but the leads are permanently attached. The leads themselves are actually not bad. They have a nice tactile feel. They have the safety stop on top, which just pops off, and then you can use them without that annoying safety tip. But yeah, generally speaking, the leads, I've seen a lot worse, so I'm not going to complain. The length of the leads, it's rather hard to demonstrate, but they are pretty long. I'd say they're about 3.5 feet long. So lots of room to, as my wife would say, wiggle and diggle. What we'll do first is we're going to take a quick test. Most people that get these mini multimeters would use them for primarily voltage. So what we'll do is we'll hook it up to a voltage reference, and we'll see just how accurate it is. So I have the ADM04 hooked up to the little 8584 precision voltage reference. It's a very nifty, neat little device, and I've been using it quite a lot as of late. It has 4 inputs: 2.5, 5.0, 7.50, and 10.0. And right now we're on the 10.000 range. Now, this being a 2000 count multimeter, we don't have that type of resolution, but as you can see, it's spot on at 10 volts. Now we're going to take it down to 2.50, and looks like it's 2.49. No, back to 2.50, so it's fluttering a little bit back and forth, but pretty close. Let's go up to the 5.00 reference. Wow, spot on, 5.00. And finally, the 7.50 reference. 7.50, spot on. So, as you can see, this is a very accurate little multimeter. No complaints. Go back to the 10.00. 10.00. So in my tests that I've done lately, this has probably been the most accurate. Probably bests my Fluke 87.5 for some odd reason. Although the resolution on my Fluke is obviously much better. This has done a great job for accuracy. So congratulations, ADM04. I'm quite impressed. Something else to take note with the multimeter itself is there's no standing bail. So unlike the Anning, you do not have that functionality. So it's always going to be laying flat. That's too bad. I don't know why they couldn't put a little standing bail. It almost fools you the way they've done the cutout for the holster. It actually looks like there is, but alas, it is not. So just for the sake of making things easier for you, I'm just propping it up. Get a better view. Alrighty, so what we'll do now is just a couple of functionality tests. I'm going to do some resistance checking to start with. So we'll use the function dial. By the way, it does have a backlight, and it's actually quite bright. It also has a hold feature, but it's one of those rather useless holds. And it does the non-contact voltage detection, which I'll demonstrate a little later. But right now, we're going to be looking at resistance. So we'll put it on the auto-ranging mode to resistance. And I'll just prop it up for you. Alrighty. Okay, so we're going to start off with a 1.5K resistor. A lot of these resistors that I'm using for my tests are fairly old. Oops, apologize. Okay, so this should be reading as 1.5K. And indeed it is 1.5K. Next in line we have a 15K resistor, 1% tolerance, and 15K it is. As you can see, the auto ranging is a tad slow, but once again this is just a very basic general multimeter, so I don't think that's such a big problem. Finally, we have a 45K resistor. And there you go. So the resistance is fine. According to the specs, this goes up to 20 mega ohm. Unfortunately, I don't have anything in that range. What we'll look at now is the diode. So we'll switch the function to the diode setting. And I have a small red LED. So let's see if we can light this up. Now, according to the specs, the range for the diode is 1 volt. The resolution is 0.001. So it's not great. I don't even think this is going to light up our diode, but let's try. I haven't tested this yet, so I'm curious myself. And no. I'll reverse it. Nothing. No can do. So this is a very low powered LED and no indication on the display about the forward voltage drop. So, not very good in the diode department. All right, so let's go to continuity. Continuity is always a great feature. I can't say enough about it. If you're testing circuits, if you're testing just about anything these days, it's a very necessary, useful feature. So we're using the probes that it comes with once again. And on the probes itself, it says 600 volt Cat 3, 1000 volt Cat 2. I definitely would not use these on 1000 volt, and I'd be a little worried about 600 volts as well. For typical household voltage, AC current, what have you, I think they'd be fine, but I wouldn't go much further than that. Okay, let's see the continuity check. So it's very slow. It's so definitely not a great continuity checker by any means. It's too bad because if you've noticed, for the non-contact voltage indicator, there's a light right here, and that would have been nice to at least see that visual display for continuity as well as the audible, because it is quite low. I don't know if you can tell at home, but it's not very loud, the speaker. So it's too bad that they, because the functionality is there, why they didn't actually use that for the continuity feature as well. But anyway, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take it apart, have a quick look, see what's inside. So we'll start by taking off the holster. Actually, I should probably power it down first. Now this should be a little bit interesting. Okay. That wasn't so bad. So there we go. Now it looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. So I'm going to quickly undo these and come right back. Before I take it all apart, I just wanted to show you once again. Now with the holster off, it's even smaller, and I think that gives you a pretty good indicator size-wise. So the Anning, as you can tell, is already a very small meter, but the ADM04, well, yeah, it's really small. And if we, just for comparison's sake, put in a fluke, I mean, I'm gonna have to focus out here, but yeah, it's a tiny meter. So there you go. All right. So one screw left to undo. So let's undo it. Bada boom, bada bing, bada bang. Try not to lose them. And I just lost them, but that's okay. All right, so we're going to pop it open. And there you go. So first of all, there's no shielding inside, and it has a separate battery cover. So the battery, I believe it was 2 AA's. Just verify. Yeah. So I put in fresh batteries when it came in. So 2 AAA's, sorry. But it's nice that it is separate. And as you can see, there's a nice brass insert. So no worry about mucking up your battery cover by unscrewing it all the time. So once inside, no shielding. Wasn't really expecting any. You don't see shielding that much, even on high-end meters. So to see it on a little one would be quite surprising. And here we are inside. I'll just go slow. So as you can see inside, I've removed the fuse. The fuse itself, the rating is 250 milliamp and 250 volts, even though they're saying it's got a 600 volt rating. So it's only rated for 250 volts. Interesting enough, there's a couple of PTCs, so you've got some input protection there. Most of it's surface mount, a lot of surface mount resistors, capacitors, what have you, a crystal oscillator. That's the main IC. I have not checked to see what the IC is, but there it is. This here is your non-contact voltage detector, and your piezo or speaker, and a couple of trim pots. And as you can see, that this is quite an accurate multimeter voltage-wise, so I'll try not to touch those. What else do we have? Well, the leads themselves they're quite thick, and you can see how they're soldered in. Now the soldering looks to be fairly decent. Zero residue, nice clean PCB, no flux anywhere. Very nicely done. And here we have the battery contacts for the power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this guy around. I don't see any current shunt or anything even remotely resembling a current shunt. So I'm just going to flip it over, take a look inside, and see what's on the other side. Okay, so I've taken a whopping 6 screws out, and I've reversed the board, the PCB, and here we are on the other side. So as you can see, there is no current shunt at all in this meter. We have the non-contact voltage detection unit right there. So what that does is when you're coming close to power, it generates the signal and it passes it through, and you get this nice bright visual and audio LED indicator going off saying that indeed it's live power. One thing I did fail to mention is that this unit actually ships with a flashlight as well, and that's what this other LED is. It's a flashlight. This guy right here. Once again, I don't know how useful features are like this. I guess if you're working in the dark, it's okay. But there you have it, not much else to see here. There's our inputs, the LCD display, classic plastic elastomer. And whenever you're handling these, if you can, try not to touch the elastomer per se. If you happen to grab it accidentally or what have you, or mangle it with your greasy fingers, it's always a good idea to take some 99% if you've got it, isopropyl alcohol, with a cotton swab, and just dab it clean, because they're quite easy to get dirty, and you want to make sure they're super clean, so they'll always have a nice clear crisp display. And as well, this is the other part for the selector knob switch. We have our standard style knob switch. I'm not going to go any further than that. Whoops. Okay. And that's just the housing for the two LEDs and the NCV detection. Alrighty. So I'm going to assemble this, and I'll be right back. One thing I wanted to mention before I completely close it again is that if you do take it apart, make sure that it's got two plastic grooves here for the leads, and it's really important to get it in those grooves. You want it to be nice and tight, because the soldering, I mean, it's an okay job, but it's not a whole lot, and if you don't have this strain relief that these two plastic holders provide, then it's quite likely that your leads will come apart. So just make sure that it's in there nice and snug. All right, so for closing thoughts, the ADM04 by B-side, it's a decent little multimeter. It doesn't do amperage, so yeah, there's no current shunt per se. does do milliamps, microamps, up to 200 milliamps. So, I mean, you're going to be using this basically, I would assume, for perhaps voltage for your car, maybe on the test bench, and continuity and resistance primarily. But that being said, it's a nifty little meter. It's got a few neat features, and all in all, it's quite well made for the price. I did promise you I would show you the non-contact voltage detection, how it works. So simply you hold down on the red button, and it helps if you turn it on. And as you can see, you get this indicator. Now, how useful is this function? Well, I've seen better. The implementation isn't the greatest. There's some devices that you don't even have to power on. You just simply hit the button. But in this case, you have to power it on. And you'll get your indicator when you get close to a voltage. Theoretically, it's supposed to flash as it starts to find a current source, and then as it's close, it's supposed to stay a solid. But yeah, I don't know how useful you'll find that, but then again, I don't know how useful you'll find the flashlight either. But there you go. So just to summarize, once again, it's a 3.5-bit LCD display. Apparently the sampling rate, they say, is about 3 times per second. I think it's more like 2, but it does have a built-in fuse up to 250 milliamp. It's not true RMS, so that should be said. It's a nice portable, small, simple, dare I say sophisticated little multimeter. Does look good. It's easy on the hands, easy on the eyes, and it's extremely accurate in terms of voltage. So if your needs are minimalistic, this might be a great alternative to some of the other cheaper DT830 clones you see on the market, going for around $5 to $10. This particular unit was only approximately $15 to $18 Canadian, so around $12 to $14 US. So it's fairly cheap, inexpensive, and I highly recommend it. So in total, I will give the B-side ADM04 a total of 3.5 out of 5 stars. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video review. And stay tuned because there's a lot more coming. If you like what you see, please give me a thumbs up. Comments or questions, feel free to ask. Until next time, keep on testing.